Welcome to this Swam podcast. I'm today's host, Coleman Hodges. Joining us today, we've got NCAA All-American in the 100 breast for Towson University. He was an Olympic trials semifinalist. Today, we're sitting down with Brian Benzing. Brian, how's it going?
Good. Thank you for having me on.
This episode of the Swam podcast is sponsored by Commit Swimming, SwimSwam's exclusive team management software partner. Since 2015, Commit has been providing coaches with swimming's leading workout management software. And now, Commit has team management software too. Commit wants to help you make the switch from Team Unify to a simpler, more powerful solution. Their onboarding and customer service team will walk you through every step of the way. Check them out at commitswimming.com to book your demo today. That's COMMIT swimming.com. Yeah, excited to talk to you. You've made quite a name for yourself this season, I think, between NC2As where you were second in the 100 breast and then at trials where you got a second swim, which was really cool to see. I want to start with trials, just coming off of the NCAA performance. How were you preparing for that meet, and did you have any goals or expectations heading into Indy?
Yeah. So obviously, Towson doesn't have a long course pool. So part of the transition training was like as soon as NCAAs was over, I was in the long course pool starting the following Wednesday. So started doing 2 long course practices a week. It was a lot of breaststroke long course, a lot of hundreds breaststroke, just kind of like feel it out, get used to swimming long course meters. And then like as it kind of came closer, we were doing a lot of like opening 50 or 450s best average from a push long course on like a decent amount of rest, just to try to simulate how it kind of would feel on 100 breast. But in terms of expectations, I would say I set some pretty lofty goals for myself. I wanted to break a minute for the first time. Obviously that didn't happen, but honestly, the close
came close, right?
Yeah, I came as close as I probably could have gotten, minus 0.1. But no, I mean, I think the closer I got to it, sometimes some days you kind of suit up and your coach tells you to hit a time and you don't hit it, so your confidence starts to like dip out. You're not feeling too good. So I guess closing in on trials, my expectations kind of changed. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to go there, do my best. If I get a second swim, I get a second swim. But if not, I get to swim in a football stadium. So you don't get to do that too often. So I was just like, just got to make the most of the opportunity.
Do you feel like that change in expectations ended up working out for the better or even helping you at the meet?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it took a lot of the pressure off, right? Because I think once I did make the semifinals, I think I, again, changed my mentality. I was like, well, I made semis and I'm 7th. I got to make finals. And that, like, I put a lot of pressure on myself going into the semis versus prelims. It's just kind of like, do your thing, get your hand on the wall, and if it happens, it happens. But semis put a lot more pressure. It was kind of like, I have to make finals. Like, I have to do it for Towson. Like, this is what I want. And, I ultimately didn't execute, and that's just how it is. But yeah.
Can you tell me about that prelim swim, especially at a meet like Olympic trials where the tension is palpable? Everyone's kind of nervous, right? Stressed out. I mean, everyone's heightened, and you're day one, like right out of the gate. What was that experience like for you?
Honestly, I didn't feel much pressure in the prelims. I think having been to like NCAAs and world trials and stuff like that, like world trials not the same atmosphere, but it's kind of that like you have to get it you have to get it done in the morning mentality. Kind of went in with that, and like I didn't treat it as if like, oh, it's make or break or there's so many people watching. It was just like, I'm gonna go there, I'm gonna execute. And if it works out, it works out. If not, it's cool. But I can see like there's definitely a lot more pressure in the semis. You kind of walk out and you see all the 20,000 people in the stadium, and I mean, I try not to look, but you still like even just having like I've said it, like just having like the big names sitting around you. Like I had Matt Fallon next to me. I had Cody Miller. I had Michael Andrew, Nick Fink, all of those guys in my heat, or not Cody Miller, but all those big names. You're looking around, you're like, dang. And then you see a really fast heat before you. You see everybody go 59 high to mid. And you're like, oh, dang. Now I have to go break a minute for the first time to try to make a final. Just a lot more pressure at night. I'll say that.
Yeah. I mean, tell me about the difference in your swims. You know, I think you were 001 in the morning and 002 at night. So it's really not that, time wise, it's not much of a difference. Did the swims themselves feel pretty different for you in terms of that execution?
Yeah. So part of my problem, or like what we were trying to work on this year, was making sure I don't tense up the last 50, because I tend to like even short course yards. Did it prior, where like I get stressed and I start thinking about how like I just have to move faster to get to the wall rather than maintaining stroke, maintaining like catching the water, stuff like that. So in the morning, I think I did a pretty good job of staying relaxed the last 25 and just getting to the wall and not spinning. And I was out a little slower. I think I was out 27.9 in the morning, and I was back 32.2, I believe, something like that. And then at night, I took it out a little faster. I was out 27.7, and definitely started stressing out the last 25, tensed up, and shortened stroke, started to spin, and kind of wheels fell off the train last 25. But I think it was very well executed 75, not necessarily 100. I wanted to put myself out there at night, and I did that, but I just didn't come home. And I will say it was kind of weird. In lane 6, I think they had like the underwater camera right underneath me, and when I dove in, I heard it make noise, and it kind of like not freaked me out, but it like took me out of my like focus, because I was like, I don't think that's the crowd, but like, and then I saw it moving. I was like, oh, okay. But it's kind of a weird experience.
That is odd. I mean, especially it's like you don't expect there to be underwater cameras in, your typical pool, right?
Yeah, I just didn't. I didn't expect it to move, let alone make a noise. Like it was. It was kind of like unnerving, or not unnerving. It threw me out of my focus.
Yeah, for sure. No, that makes sense. I mean, yeah, again, like you're so in the zone, you're trying to prepare and do the best performance of your life. And it's like, wait, why are there these mechanical robots all around me? So yeah, I mean, I think coming off of that, do you feel you have a 59 in you, or do you just feel confident and proud of those performances, especially after sitting with it for a while?
I think it just gives me a lot of confidence in general. I think I do have a 59 in me in the future. And I just think for me, that was a big confidence booster, because, in the past, I've struggled converting my short course yards time to long course. Like I'd always be like, oh, like I'm this time short course yards based on the conversion, I should be X time long course. And I never hit that time. And I was always like, well, short course yards doesn't necessarily like, it means a lot in college and in the US, but if I want to become an Olympian, make a world's team, stuff like that, long course is where I have to get it done. So for the longest time, struggling to make that transition to long course meters. Sorry, my dog is dreaming right now. I don't know if you hear that.
Yeah.
But making that transition like was always hard. So being able to go that close to 59 just gave me a lot of confidence to make to show me that I could be with the other top breaststrokers in the country. I can put myself in positions where I'm able to potentially make Pan Pacs teams, Worlds teams, potentially Olympic teams in the future if I keep improving. And that's really what I want to do. So I think that swim just kind of like opened my eyes to the possibility of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and right, Olympic trials is such a hard meet because there's like one goal for everyone that's so clear, and so it makes any other goal kind of hard to see or murky to find in there. But yeah, I mean, you went a huge best time, almost broke a minute there. Like, those are big accomplishments to me. But congrats on that.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm curious what your relationship with long course was like before this summer.
Yeah. So I've had like, I wouldn't say on and off, but like I lived in Norway for 3 years, and that's kind of where I got my
Hmm.
biggest jump in swimming, at least to propel me into college. So obviously there, I was always swimming short course meters and swimming long course meters 2 to 3 times a week, always. And then leading up to long course nationals there, I'd go to a training camp, and we do long course meters every day, 2 times a day. So coming to the U.S. And doing everything in short course yards, and especially at Towson, where the closest long course pool that we have access to is Meadowbrook, and
Hmm.
typically we only get access to it 2 times a week. It's kind of, I don't have that much exposure to long course meters here. So a lot of the prep work happens in the short course yards pool. Um, but I will say I do like long course meters, but I think it takes a while to get used to. And it's one of those things where if you're not swimming it consistently enough, you're never, or at least for me, if I'm not swimming it consistently enough, I'm never gonna fully get like adjusted to it and be confident. So I feel like the more exposure I have to long course meters, the better I swim it. Um, but funnily enough, like when I was warming up for my 100 breast, I was using the short course meters pool, and I thought that was, I don't know, I liked it, especially for some of the speed work and the drilling and just the basic warm up stuff.
Yeah. That I do feel like that's really interesting. That brought up a lot of questions that I had on my list. First of all, you went to high school in Norway, is that
Yeah,
right?
correct.
Um, I mean, that's sorry.
Bless you.
Bless me. Thanks. You went to high school in Norway. That's obviously pretty unique for
Yeah.
anyone in the United States. That's really cool. Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about why that was the case, and also what your experience like was there?
Yeah. So my dad, he works for the government, and what his specific position, he has the option where like depending on openings and stuff, like every 3 to 4 years, he's able to apply um, to work at different countries' embassies, the U.S. embassy in different countries. So I know that there is options in the UK, Japan, I want to say Germany and Norway, and we had applied for I think UK, didn't get it, and then my freshman year of high school, my dad applied for us to move to Norway. And he got the job. So after my sophomore year of high school, we moved abroad to Oslo, the capital of Norway, where I stayed and finished my senior year. And then I took a gap year for recruiting. And then I came here, but my parents stayed for 4 years. So they were there an extra year after I left. Um, Honestly, it was amazing. I went to a very difficult high school, I'd say. I was IB program, so I don't know. I thought it was hard, and very small class. I think my graduating class there was like 32. So got to know everybody pretty well, and specifically just in Norway. Like I had come from the U.S. I played lacrosse, soccer, basketball, and then I swam as well. So swimming was never a priority. It was always kind of like depending on the season, the priority would shift. And I got to Norway and didn't play lacrosse or soccer, so I stuck
Mhm.
with basketball and swimming. And I did that for my junior year. when after that, because my swim coach would always complain, he'd be like, "Why aren't you coming to these Monday, Wednesday, Friday morning practices at 5:30?" I'm not. I don't want to. What reason do I have to come to those and then go to school 8 o'clock to like? Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. I got basketball 2 times a week, swimming 4. I don't need to do 5:30. Um,
Mhm.
and then somehow with training, I guess 4 or 5 times a week swimming, I made Norwegian nationals, both short course meters and long course meters. And after the summer, the long course meters meet, my coach was like, "Yeah, I think you have a lot of potential, and I think it's time for you to choose between basketball and swimming." And so I decided to quit basketball, which I was okay at, but like nothing special. Um, Decided to quit that and focus fully on swimming. And over the next 2 years, uh, my coach, my trainer in Norway, just kind of we essentially rehauled all my strokes. He made fun of my freestyle butterfly, breaststroke, backstroke, everything when I came in, said it was all trash. So we rehauled it. I relearned everything. Big focus on technique, um, and I think a lot of the like base for all the strokes that I do came from Norway, and I've just kind of built upon those, added drills, technique, tips, whatever I can from all the coaches afterwards. But the solid core foundation that I have right now is it came from those 3 years in Norway. So
That's super interesting. What I'm just curious, what was competing at Norwegian nationals like?
it was funny because obviously there aren't many Americans competing like there. So to me, it was just like nothing really made sense. Like I mean, it made sense, but it was just kind of like a different world.
Mhm.
I had a lot of fun. I really liked it. My team was awesome. My coaches were awesome. Norwegian nationals. I don't know if you know Timo Zenemotovas.
I
He
don't.
swam. He swam in the ISL as an Olympian.
Okay.
He was probably one of the best swimmers that Norway has produced in terms of like short distances, opposed to like Henrik Christensen, who's obvious distance, known for distance.
Yeah.
He was very good at 2 IM, 1 fly, 2 fly. So getting to swim against him was awesome because he'd kick my butt and then he'd go to Europeans and medal and then go to Worlds and medal or whatever. So I don't know. It was a little bit of a smaller community. So if you knew a bunch of the people, it was pretty sick. I liked it. I really liked it.
Yeah, that sounds really cool. And so did you like you competed at meets like that for 3 years in a row?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually through that team, I was able to like. There's a bunch of really nice pools in Norway, so I was able to compete at a bunch of them. I remember I got to go to a meet in I think it was Amsterdam, where for the first time I got to swim. I didn't swim against him directly, but I got to watch Arno Kaminga swim. And I think he might have broken 58 for the first time at that meet or done
Oh, wow.
something. Like
Yeah.
he went very fast at that meet. And I don't know if he broke 58, but it was a very fast meet and I got to see him swim for the first time. And it was pretty awesome.
Yeah. That I mean, yeah, as a breaststroker that's pretty awesome. That's great. Were you always a breaststroker?
Um, I mean, I'd say not really. I mean, when I made the first time I kind of like got good at it was in I think my sophomore year of high school where I went 100 for the first time short course yards, and I made my first Y nationals after like quitting the sport a year
Mhm.
prior. But prior to that, breaststroke was my worst stroke. So I don't know where it came from. I guess I just decided to learn it sophomore year of high school.
What and then so I guess I'm kind of breaking my own rule. I don't like referring to people as like breaststroke or butterflies,
Yeah.
but was breaststroke a stroke that you continued to excel at from there? And or like were you still focusing on other strokes during, I guess, mostly during your time in Norway?
Yeah, so I I'd say I had a I think I excelled mostly in the breaststroke, but because of I don't want to say I'm good at every stroke, but like I'm able to swim it at a decent enough level where I ended up swimming it. So my lineup at like Norwegian nationals for short course meters, or we had this thing called North Sea Swim Meet, which is it's like a semi-pro meet, so like a bunch of out of country professionals come and swim. So at those meets, I would swim 50 free, 50 fly, 50 breast, 100 free, 100 breast, 100 IM, 200 free, every single relay. So I was doing everything, and obviously I was prelim and finaling in all of them. So they were rough meets. But I think, yeah, it was because all the relays we had to do prelims and not prelims and finals, but it was like juniors in the morning, so all the like U18 and hard rolled, and then the senior national or the senior levels were at night. So if you were fast enough to be on that team, you had to swim both. So it got pretty rough. But I think breaststroke I excelled the most in. Towards the end, I think I kind of plateaued there in breaststroke, and I had a okay showing in the 100 IM, but for the most part, it was breaststroke, and I had a decent 50 fly short course meters.
Yeah. Sounds like the dream lineup.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
Yeah. So coming to Norway, you had finished your sophomore year of high school in the U.S. Where'd you grow up, or where were you going to high school in?
So I went to Wild Lake High School. It's in Howard County, Maryland. So it's 20 minutes from Towson. It's right down the road, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Was it hard leaving the U.S. initially?
Oh yeah.
And going somewhere new?
Oh yeah. It was. I think my brothers can attest to this as well, but it was really, really tough when we got there because for the first 4 weeks we had nothing. I mean, we had like government supplied beds, like blankets, like all that, but we had no friends, no family, nothing to do. School didn't start for like a month and a half, so it was just really rough. It was very lonely, and you're isolated because you don't really speak the language. But come to find out, like 98% of Norwegians speak fluent English. So, but it was pretty rough the 4 weeks, having nothing and being pretty lonely. But I think I adapted pretty quickly, and it helps when you have sports to kind of make friend groups. It's like the same thing when you come into college. You already have those predetermined friends on the swim team. Like I made friends on the swim team. I made friends on the basketball team, friends at school. So I think that having those support systems made the whole transition a lot easier.
Yeah. I love that you mentioned that and bring that up, just because I do feel like having those extracurriculars in a new place makes a big difference. So then you go to school for 2 years in Norway. You take a gap year to focus on swimming and recruiting. What was your recruiting process like?
It was interesting, because my parents kind of didn't know what we were doing, and it was especially weird because like not many coaches are kind of looking to Europe for expat or not expats, but like Americans, and you don't really see the level. Like I would hear my friends now talked about coaches coming to their practices, recruiting them, stuff like that. You don't really get anything like that out here unless you're top tier. Like you're looking to go like to Cal or Texas or one of those schools or Indiana. But so it was really weird. I signed up for this service called NCSA. I think it's called Next College Student Athlete or something like that.
Okay.
And so they kind of helped me through the process. And initially I was kind of looking like I didn't really care what division. I just knew I wanted to swim. So I was looking at D2, D3, D1. And we thought about kind of where I wanted to be in terms of like location, because for the first year I would be without my parents because they'd still be in Norway. So I thought it would probably be best to stay relatively local, at least on the East Coast, so that I would be able to have the support system, like family members living by in case I needed anything. So I started looking, and I kind of narrowed it down to all colleges in Maryland. Ironically, I had I think it was Mount St. Mary's, UMBC, and Towson were like my three. And I was able to take a trip to Mount St. Mary's, I believe, or like unofficial, but at least tour. And then I was able to take an official to Towson and an official to UMBC. And very compressed. I was only in the U.S. for, I think, a week and a half, so I kind of had to spread my time evenly amongst them. And then when I got back from my recruiting trips, I think I immediately committed. And then 6 months later, COVID happened, so it was kind of weird. But I'm happy that I was lucky enough where I took my gap year, so I didn't get affected too much, unlike a lot of people with recruiting, because I had already committed. I had went through the process. It was just that would have been my senior season before coming into college. So, but yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Nice. I mean, I'm glad it didn't affect you too much, and I'm glad we're seeing generations who it won't affect, right? Which is nice. Yeah, I think this coming year will be the last year for fifth years. So maybe we'll get back to some normalcy after that. But so you committed immediately. What made Towson the right choice for you? To give you a little context, we did a poll on Instagram, what would people want to ask Brian Benzing? And that was, I think, the question that came up the most, or at least the serious question that came up the most.
Yeah. So one of the things that I thought about as well, Jack Saunderson, an alumni, I knew that he swam there and I knew the success he had. I've heard of him. So I knew that's how Towson was kind of on my radar, and the fact that it's local. I've watched them play lacrosse, stuff like that. And when I went on my trip, I've said it to a bunch of people. It just felt like I was already part of the team. The guys were also welcoming. I felt like I meshed with the people really well. I loved the campus. And one of the points that I brought up was a lot of the seniors who wouldn't have been there when I was a freshman, they were still going out of their way to be there, hang out with the recruits, talk to us, try to get to know us as friends or whatever. And to me, that meant a lot, because it's those guys aren't even going to be there when I'm there. So to take time out of their day to talk to me and host me and do whatever it meant a lot. It was really just people driven. The coach was good. I really didn't talk to him as much, but I liked him. But it was really the team. It felt like a family before I even got there. So.
Yeah. And I think you hear that about a lot of recruiting stories. And I think that's what a lot of people want to know. And then the feeling that a lot of people want to get, right, is just that feeling of camaraderie and family in a team that as young high schoolers are leaving their family, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's great to hear. During your time at Towson, I mean, on paper, it seems like you evolved a lot as a swimmer and as an athlete. Mm-hmm. How did you see that happening during your time at Towson? And I mean, was that, especially, I guess, just mentally, how did you get from, you'd already been a 4-sport athlete, then a 2-sport, then you'd committed to swimming, but how did you see yourself grow mentally in terms of your dedication and focus that you put towards swimming?
Yeah, it was kind of weird because freshman year, I thought I was a swim nerd or whatever, but coming in, I guess I took it really seriously, and I was doing whatever I can to get faster. But I wasn't thinking about qualifying for anything. I didn't think about making the NCAAs. None of that ever crossed my mind my freshman year. I just knew that I wanted to go fast and I wanted to help my team win a conference championship. Um, and I kind of tried to do whatever I could to put myself in that position to podium, medal, whatever it took to get points on the board for our team. Um, and it really wasn't until after my freshman year that I kind of like realized, oh, like I can go to NCAAs, like I can potentially make it. Like there's a chance that like I can do a little bit more with swimming than I expected. Um, so I didn't have the confidence I wanted it my sophomore year, but I was able to go to a couple last chance meets, drop enough time where I was able to go to NCAAs, and then I had a pretty big drop there, and I made my first NCAA B final, and that was pretty awesome. And I think from there it kind of like clicked in my mind, like I really want to, like I think I can be in the mix. Like I think I could put myself in a position where I can do even better. And then it just became like kind of like an addiction where I was like doing whatever I could to get better. Like I tried to do the extra. I was staying over Christmas break, doing whatever I can to recover, putting the work in the gym. And last year under the new coach, it was a complete different, like we had a complete new training cycle or a new training style. So adapting to that and then seeing the success with that boosted my confidence even more that I could take this even further. And then going into this year, we knew that the 100 breaststroke short course yards was going to be pretty wide open with a lot of the super seniors graduating, seniors graduating. So I was just doing whatever, I was making whatever sacrifices I could to put myself in a position where I could potentially capitalize on that. And it was kind of like the same thing for the Olympic trials. Like I just was trying to do whatever I could to give myself the best opportunity. And looking back on it, it's crazy because I remember talking to my Norwegian coach, the one that like kind of got me to swim. And we were talking about what realistically he thought I could go short course yards my first year in college. And he was like, like, I think it's a real long shot, or like, but I think you could go like a 53. Like that's really doable. Like I think your time converts to a 56 or 55, but I think you can go a 53. Like you just wait. And I ended up going a 52.5 my freshman year. And there's just like, it was so crazy because I never expected any of this to happen. And to be able to love what you do and like put in that much work and see results it's amazing. So it's been pretty cool.
Yeah. What's amazing to me is that 52.5 your freshman year didn't make NCAAs.
It's crazy because I looked back on it and like,
yeah,
my thing was that like, so because of COVID, my conferences actually happened after NCAAs because of the way it worked out. So I think we ended up swimming our conferences in April, like the first week of April. Yeah, it was really
weird. I don't remember that, but that's wild.
Yeah, so we had a really long season that year. And I looked back at the cut line. I think I ended up missing the cut by either like 0.07 or 0.1 or something. Okay. So I think if I had have had maybe like a second chance or like a last chance meet, I could have potentially made it. But my freshman year, I didn't really care. I just thought it was cool to win a championship with my team.
Totally. Tell me about that. What was winning, especially as a freshman, not having much context for what college swimming is like, what the CAA is like, how was it to get to go compete for conference championship and to win it?
Yeah, it was really crazy because like obviously it was a time where a lot of teams were getting shut down and like there was a lot of pauses in trainings for other teams. So one of the things that like our seniors would always talk about were just like this could be our year. We just gotta like stay healthy and make sure that we're like following the rules and make sure we don't like have any mass positive tests. So we're not out of the water too long because we could take advantage of this and we can win it. And I remember my senior, one of my seniors was just constantly hyping me up. He's like, yeah, like I think you go this. I think you could medal in all three events, like all this stuff. And I was like, okay, yeah, watch me. Like I'm gonna do it. Like I'm gonna watch. Like I had no clue. Like I was just like, yeah, I'll do it. Why not? But then getting there, and it was the only year where the conferences, the men's and women's conferences were separate. So getting there with all the guys, it's like, I say this, like, it's one of those like opportunities where everybody kind of didn't know whether or not we were going to get the chance to swim. So everybody took every opportunity seriously and just like was very hyped, grateful for everything. So getting to conferences and being with them, it was electric. The energy from our team was amazing. So supportive. Everybody was so supportive. And even like the last day when we knew we were going to win, just points wise, we had our one of our, I guess, athletic oversight or directors, Terry Porter, and the divers who had dove separately drive down to come receive the trophy with us and jump in the pool. And it's just one of those moments where it's like I look back at some of the clips, and I'll this year when I in our group chat, I sent a clip of us like belly flopping in the pool after we won, and I was like, for like the seniors who got this or like were there, like you got to remember this moment, and because this is what we're working towards. And for those who haven't, like this is what we're working towards. But yeah, it was euphoric, and it was a great way to start off my college career. Probably the best way possible for me, at least.
No kidding. I mean, I think certainly at swam, you know I can kind of get caught up in like the top of the top, right? You know, covering the Olympic swimmers and the world's medalists and NCAAs. But like, if you're a high school kid who swims and who's going to college, like for many of those swimmers, like that's going to be the highlight of your swimming career. Right. And so it's cool to relive those moments, to celebrate those moments, to talk about those moments. Cause it's like, for so many, that's it. Yeah. That's as good as it gets, which is great. Those are amazing, unique moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's cool. And now it's like you've completed your senior season, and I want to start just kind of by comparing, you know, what it was like as a freshman going into that conference and kind of just not knowing what to expect or what you were going to do personally. And then to have this, I'm assuming, massive evolution as an athlete and probably as a person. You know, college is a very formative time. What it was like this year for you at conference. I'm sure your goals were different. I'm sure your perspective was different. I'm sure you were probably a leader on the team. But what was this conference like for you as a senior?
Yeah, so I'll go back to my freshman year. I think I had like naivety, like I just had no clue what was going on. I had no expectations, and sometimes I think that's a lot better because you can't put a lot of pressure on yourself if you're not expecting anything. So I had no expectations, no pressure on myself to perform. I just knew that I wanted to go out and do what I could for my team. So that was awesome. But I think like that having a successful freshman year, for me personally, I put a lot of pressure on myself going into the next conferences. So it was a lot different going into that conferences. Like I felt like I had to win everything. I had to go these times, like, and it ultimately led to me not having a very good conference by my standards. I wasn't very happy with my performance. But then after that, I think I was able to grow a little bit. And these past 2 seasons, just going into conferences, it's like I just get giddy and like excited because I'm like, well, this is my first taper meet of the season. I'm just ready to shave, go fast, and swim with my guys and give us and give our team and myself the best chance to win. And I think mental training the past 2 years has been a lot better. Like we had a mental coach, not frequently, but we talked to him every once in a while, mainly leading up to conferences. And it was just a lot of like prep work and how to stay in the moment and avoid self-doubt. And really, for me, what I tried to do leading into the past 2 conferences was just reinforce that I've put in the work, I've put in the training. There's no reason that I should doubt anything that I'm about to do. I shouldn't be doubting whether or not I'm going to be able to finish at 200 IM. I know I'm going to be able to finish at 2 IM. So for me, this year is kind of like, I wouldn't say a victory lap, but it was one last ride with what I consider my second family, all the guys on the team. So just having fun with them and sharing those memories, and it was really awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool to hear. And again, yeah, conference championships just seems like a really cool time.
Yeah, I like coming from Norway, where it was like it felt like almost like, obviously I think there was something you were working towards, which was like the best club team. It felt a lot less like team driven and more individual, whereas like a a conference championship feels a lot more team driven to me, and you're kind of like working for something bigger than yourself. So it's a lot easier to want to give your all versus if it's just like for yourself,
Yeah.
Like a relay,
Yeah, absolutely. No, I totally get that. And then, coming from that conference championship to NCAAs, how do you make that shift? How do you mentally prepare? And I mean, what's the difference between somewhere where the whole team is there, or, a majority of the team is there, versus not very many of the team is there?
Yeah. So to me, it was just kind of like, that was my third NCAAs this past year. And to me, the first one was the mentality of like, it was like, I treated it like the Olympic trials, where it was like, I just made it. Like, if I get 18th, I'm fine with that. Like, I don't really, my whole goal was to make it to NCAAs. And if I final, that's a bonus. And then getting the final was awesome. And I think not putting as much pressure on yourself in prelims and just executing your race and figuring that out. That's kind of like what worked for me, because like if I overthought the prelim swim, then I never had a great prelim swim. And this year, it was a very weird transition, because in past times, spring break has aligned with my NCAAs, so it's been like where I go and I'm not missing class, I'm not doing anything, I'm training with the whole team leading up to it. But this year, spring break didn't align, so our spring break was a week before NCAAs, so I was training alone essentially for 2 weeks leading up to it. And I will say, like, the last week, I was starting to doubt. It was like the same thing. I was doubting my abilities. I was like, I'm not hitting pace. I'm not feeling good. Like, I guess I'll just go. Like, I already made it. Might as well go and swim, just see how it goes. And it ended up going really well. I think not having people there is a good and bad thing, where it allows me to kind of focus on myself and like relax. I don't have to stand up and cheer for other people and do all that stuff and worry about who's swimming when and what. I can kind of just do my own process, focus on my habits, and do what I think is best to get me ready. And it also allows for a lot more like one-on-one time with coaches. So like I had my coach's undivided attention the whole NCAAs. So if there were adjustments that needed to be made, he was right there to make them. But I think it was just I just kind of tried to have the same mentality, have fun, go out there, execute my race. It was just done on a different stage with a different level of swimming. So,
yeah. I mean, and that seems like a good way to do it. I really like hearing you speak about not putting pressure on yourself in prelims and just executing. I think more and more you're hearing about athletes who are able to kind of convert that mentality to success. You swam 3 events at this year's NCAAs. You 2 IM, 100 breast, 200 breast, A final in 100, B final in 200 breast. We went 142 in 200 IM. It's pretty good. That seems pretty good to me. Do you think it's nice starting the meet with the 200 IM and maybe just getting a swim out of the way and also, going a pretty good time?
I think if I went a pretty good time, yeah. But if you had asked me that a year ago, I would have said no, because I was very against swimming the 200 IM at the beginning of my NCAAs my junior year, because my thought was, at least going into that, my focus wasn't on the 2 IM, and we hadn't been prepping really the 2 IM. So I didn't want to swim it. So when the race my junior year, the 2 IM didn't exactly go my way, I think it threw off my attitude, and I was like, well, I told you so. I told you we shouldn't have swam it. Like, God. But ended up having a pretty fast 100 breast. But I do think that if it helps you, having an event that you're confident in, that you know you've prepared for, having something that isn't your main event before your main event is almost like a good trial or test run where you can, because I don't know, I think it takes a little bit of the pressure off, and it makes it easier, because I think it can be hard if your main event, the one that you've been training for, is the first day of racing, because the first race isn't always the easiest race, or it isn't always the best race. Sometimes you need a warm-up race, if you say, if you can call it that. But I think this year, having that 2 IM and being able to go that fast for me in prelims, like compared to the year prior, I think I dropped 4 seconds from prelims junior to senior year. So being able to do that gave me a lot of confidence, even though I didn't final. Like, it gave me a lot of confidence that, like, yeah, I know I'm in shape. Like, this is going to be a fast 100 breast. Like, I know I can do that. If I can do that, 100 breast is going to be easy. So for me, that this year, it was a huge mental boost, at least.
Yeah. And then, it seems like 2 IM goes well. Take me through the 100 breast, because all I remember about the 100 breast is your celebration in the final, which was epic.
Yeah.
But can you just kind of take me through that day and how you remember it?
Yeah. I mean, it was like any other meet. Woke up, I was ready to go. Honestly, I swam the prelims 100 breast, and we had talked about it. So one of the things that we had been going over with me and my coach was the amount of strokes and what time I needed to hit. Like, when I was pushing 25s and doing certain specific speed work or race pace and stuff like that. And he's always like, oh, it's just numbers. Like, don't think about it. Like, it's just numbers. If you hit these numbers, you're going to go that time. So I was hitting the numbers. I was doing really well. And he kept going like, oh yeah, it's going to be fast. Oh yeah. And I was like, all right, yeah, let's go. Let's do it. And I get up there, I swim it. And obviously, I think some of the races where I do the best, I black out. Like, I remember it, but I don't remember it like 25 by 25. And I just remember touching the wall and looking up, and I knew that I would have to be somewhere in the 51.1 to like 50 point to make it back to A final. I saw 50.9. I was like, yeah, there we go. Like, I did my job in prelims. Like, and I remember after that, I was like hugging my coaches, and I was telling them, I was like, look, as long as I don't DQ myself or do something stupid, I'm going to be an All-American. And that's what I've been chasing. That's what I was chasing the past 2 years. Like, I didn't even want a podium, like a top 3 finish. I just wanted to be on the top 8, whether or not it was 8th or 1st. I just wanted to be on there and get one of those trophies. And so I was just telling myself, hey, like, if I don't do good, I don't do good, but I'll be an All-American either way. And we get to finals, and we're preparing to walk out, and I didn't wear headphones, so I noticed that everybody else around me is wearing headphones, and I'm just like, oh, okay, whatever. I walk out. I remember just showing off Towson, doing that, and then I kind of black out from there. Hit myself a couple times, and the last thing I remember was the last 25. I saw Liam Bell. Like, I was here. I saw him way ahead of me over there. I was just like, just get to the wall. Just get to the wall. Just get to the wall. Touch, look up. And at first I saw just second place. I didn't know I went 50.5. I thought I went 50.9 and got second. So I was really hyped. And then I saw it shuffled and like reordered it, and I saw 50.5. I was even more hyped. And I was like, well, I know like typically it's like first place celebrates, but I was like, probably inspiration from David Johnson, but got that second place. And I was like, well, this is the highest placement in my university, my program's history. the only other person to do it was on the women's side, and she did it in 2 events. But I was like, I'm gonna celebrate. I wanna enjoy my moment because it means a lot to me with everything that, like, all the work I put in, and everything that went into it. And I just couldn't believe it. I felt like I didn't belong on that podium, if I'm being honest. It felt so out of place. I was like, do I really go up there? Like, that's pretty sick. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a cool moment for us to witness, and it truly, especially after this conversation, it seems like a pretty big culmination of the body of work that you put in and that Towson put into you. And, it's cool to see those moments like that. And then, and so it seems like you've had a great run at Towson. You're headed to Indiana, I guess, at the end of this week.
Yeah.
What what can you tell me a little bit about that decision for you to not only take the 5th year, but to do it at Indiana, and what you're looking forward to in Bloomington?
Yeah. So I kind of had, I wouldn't say abnormal, but I went into the portal pretty early. I guess it was last spring at this point. And that was under my coach's discretion. He told me, he was like, look, I want you to get in the portal as soon as you can, because I know how scholarships work, and I know how, like, everything happens with roster size, scholarship cap, stuff like that. So I want you to get the best opportunity you can. And so I went in and I was talking, and I got a lot. One of the thought from us as well was that we wouldn't get that much attention from schools. So the plan was to kind of, like, get in there so I could get as much attention as possible and, like, find the best school to fit me. And so I got a lot more attention than I expected. So I ended up talking to a bunch of schools. I wanted to plan out trips, and I was able to go on a trip to Indiana. And I loved it. It felt like the same thing as Towson to me. It was like all the guys were so welcoming. I felt like I meshed with them very well. Facilities were awesome. Coaches were awesome. I love Ray, great guy. Luke Ryan as well. And I came back and I was like, I think I should take some other trips, like look at my other options. And then I started to think about what I want to accomplish in swimming and what direction I want to take my career. And looking at it from, like, a breaststroke point of view, I know Indiana is called Breaststroke University. And to me, it was kind of a obvious decision to, if I want to take breaststroke as far as I can, to go to a place like that with that the history it has in breaststroke, and try to set myself up for the best opportunities I can get in the future. Yeah, and that's kind of how I made my decision to go to Indiana. And also, I really enjoyed Bloomington, and the area is super nice. Yeah, it's nice. Yeah.
Yeah. I've enjoyed Bloomington every time I've been there. It's a really cool town. And yeah, obviously Indiana has a pretty good track record in the pool. Do you see yourself swimming after this upcoming 5th year at Indiana?
Yeah, so I would hope so. My plan is to swim through the next Olympic cycle and try to give it my best shot for LA 2028. But we'll see how this season goes. I'm hoping it goes better. I hope I can build onto it. And if I can build onto it, then I think that's definitely what I'll probably do leading into the next Olympic cycle.
Well, that's awesome to hear as a swim fan. I think, it's cool that A, we'll just have kind of a normal Olympic cycle this year, but B, that, someone who has had as much success in short course yards is now translating that to long course meters and is going to keep swimming past college, because we don't always see that. And yeah, obviously 4 years is a long time, but I hope it goes well for you, and I hope we see you in the pool for the next 4 years.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope to be in the pool for the next 4 years.
Well, Brian, it's been awesome talking to you. Okay, sorry. We got questions on Instagram. I want to ask a couple more before we sign off. Favorite breaststroke drill? Do you have a favorite drill?
I don't know if you consider it a drill, but I really like breaststroke skull. Just kind of sculling out in front, trying to feel that initial catch of the stroke. For me, it feels like it kind of connects me a little more with my stroke. Uh, and that's kind of one of the first things that my coach drilled into me was a skull. So I don't know, it has a special place for me.
I'm a very casual swimmer. I swim a couple times a week, maybe 1,500 to 2,000 yards. But that's when I'm doing breaststroke. That's one of my favorite things to do as well. Yeah. Like, again, just kind of start small and then work your way up into that catch and your stroke. And yeah, I feel like it works really well. So it's good to hear. Do you have a breaststroke inspiration?
I like, obviously I look at all the top breaststrokers just kind of as inspiration. Like, I'm always trying to see what the top guys are doing, see if I can incorporate it. I guess I'm struggling on a name right now, but my coach kind of put it in my head back in Norway. I don't know who he was, but I forget his name. He was I think he was the first breaststroker to break a minute. I don't know. He's an American guy, very, very flexible knees. He had an insane kick. And that's what my coach wanted me to do because I wasn't flexible. So he wanted me to train my flexibility to get my kick as good as him. And that was kind of my inspiration, at least for that duration of period. And I mean, I always check to see what he went versus what I went. So
yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, we'll get back to it. All right, I'm getting diet questions. So I'm going to narrow it down. What's your favorite thing to eat either the night before a big meet or the day of a big meet?
So it's very interesting because the past two meets have been in Indianapolis, right? So we made the choice to kind of keep all the places that we eat the same. I was doing a lot of Chipotle for lunch, carb heavy breakfast, so good amount of carbs, some protein, electrolytes in the morning, and then at night we went to this one Mexican place. I think 3-4 times. It was called, I think, Los Arroyos or something. It was a really good Mexican place. I don't know. I like that because you can get a lot of vegetables, you can get a lot of protein, carbs with the rice. So I don't know. I think it fuels me for the next day. But that's typically, and if not, when we're at conferences, it'll be like a pasta from Olive Garden or something, some sort of pasta. But
yeah. Okay, this is great. I'm getting a lot of gym questions. Because you're pretty buff. Let's just put it out there. How have you evolved as a land athlete during your time at Towson? Were you always kind of more muscular, or were you super skinny as a kid?
I think like I was athletic as a kid, but I wasn't like buff. I was pretty skinny up until I think probably my senior year of high school. But when I was a freshman and sophomore, when I was swimming for the Y team and I made Y Nats, like prior to that, one of my thoughts was like, oh, I think like I didn't think about technique. I didn't think about anything like that. I was like, if I hit the gym, I can probably get faster at swimming. So I would just go to the gym and do like every single machine I saw for a couple of sets. Just thought it would do something. And then I got to Norway and I had a friend who he wanted to be a bodybuilder. So he was doing all those exercises. So I started doing them with him and slowly evolved it to fit me. And then I got to the US, or I got to college, and obviously you have strength coaches programming everything for you. So your job is just kind of to have good technique and push yourself as much as you can. So, and I find it very easy for myself to push myself in the gym and just do the extra or whatever I can to get stronger. And I also have an appetite, so I found it very easy to eat. So I think eating a lot and lifting heavy, or I guess putting the effort in the weight room, kind of has led to my progressive weight gain. I think I came in at, I want to say 175, 180, and I weigh about 194 right now. So put on a little bit of muscle since I've been here. But yeah, I think I'm like a gym rat, so I really enjoy lifting in the gym. Sometimes I find it easier to push myself in the weight room with certain exercises than like certain swim exercises.
Which, I think the way our sport's going, that might be beneficial, right? I mean, especially for certain times of the season, depending on where you're at, it's like, maybe take it a little easier in the pool, not easier, but push yourself more in the weight room, or that's maybe more of an emphasis.
I mean, if you look at what Liam Bell, that's kind of what he said he did. He took the summer off. He was just hitting the weight room. I think it kind of is I think it's situational. I think if you think that you can benefit from putting on muscle weight, but then still maintain your aerobic fitness, your endurance, stuff like that, then I think you should do it. But if you're like a distance swimmer, obviously a little bit of muscle is going to help you, but there's no need for you to be getting huge.
Yeah. Agreed. And that's why I think we have less distance swimmers, because who doesn't want to get huge? Okay. Last question. Kath Jewel Mo asks, why are you bald?
It's funny. So for my freshman year conferences, we do I shaved my head for conferences because I was going to shave my head either way. And then the freshmen volunteered to get freshman haircuts if they want to. And so my whole class did it. And I was like, you know what? Like, you can do whatever you want with my hair. But I'm going to go bald at the end, like razor bald. Mm-hmm. And I think the inspiration was Mr. Clean, but I let them, I think they gave me a monk haircut, and then we went bald. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to make this a tradition. So every year since then, I've been going bald before conferences. And then NCAAs, I reshave my head as well. So I would go bald at conferences, and then when it came time to NCAAs, I would reshave it bald as well. So I don't know. I like it. I'm going to keep it, do the same thing at Indiana, keep it a tradition.
Yeah. I mean, it obviously works on some level.
Yeah. It's a little bit of intimidation as well. I think you look at that, there's not many other bald people at a swim meet, especially like NCAAs or conferences. So everybody's kind of looking at you like side eye. What's
this guy doing?
Yeah, what's this guy doing? Why is he bald?
Especially when you had the Towson, the tiger claws across your chest. It's like okay. Oh. This dude's serious.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. Well, Brian, you've been exceedingly generous with your time today. Thank you so much for taking that time to sit down and tell us your story. It's been great to hear it.
Of course. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on. It's a great opportunity. I really appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Any parting thoughts for our audience? I know we've covered a lot of ground, but anything else you want to get out there before we sign off?
Go Tigers, go Hoosiers. That's all I can say.
You've been listening to the Swim Swam podcast. Stay tuned for new episodes every week. You can take Swim Swam podcast on the go by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Look for links in the description below, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more videos as well.